Hello, welcome back to Fundamental STEM. My name is Jer, and in today's video I'm going to show you how you can animate your name using Scratch 3.0 software, like this. So let's not hang about, let's get into this computer and get coding. Okay guys, so the first thing we need to do is get rid of the cat. We don't need the cat for this particular program. We need to go into the sprite library, click on letters, and let's start pulling out some letters. So I'm going to pull out letters for me, you pull out your own letters for your own name. So I'm going to grab a G, and I'm going to put that up in the corner here. I'm going to go back into the sprite library, back to letters, get an E. The middle of the screen there is fine. And I'm going to grab one more letter. I'm going to grab an O. And I'm going to drag it in the other corner here. Obviously your letters will be different. You have different name, different length of name. All that basically means different is that you're going to have a little bit more work or less work to do depending on the length of your name. Before we get coding in the letters, the first thing I need to do is to actually change the costumes, because each of these letters has just the one costume. I'm going to click on the G. I'm going to do these in order. The first thing that's very important to recognize when you're going to animate these is that you want them to stay exactly in the center here. This center mark is where the letter is, and every costume should be on the exact position. So it's very important that you don't click and drag the letter off this particular mark, because when they come to animating, it'll mean that they'll go through their animation changing of sizes, but they'll also end up bouncing around the place because you've moved each costume off the center axis. So what we need to do before we go changing or altering this particular letter is we need to make a duplicate of this costume. So right click and get duplicate, and left click, and you now have two of them. So this is going to be the original size that we're dealing with. The second one is the one that we're going to animate. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my mouse up to the corner of the costume template, click left button on my mouse, drag across and put a big box around the letter, let go, and then the whole thing is highlighted. Now for the G, I'm going to make it just basically kind of look like it's bouncing, so it's going to squash down and then squash and then expand back up again. And in order to do that, I'm going to do it in a couple of steps. So I'm going to come to the top here, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to squash the letter down a little bit. That's all we need to do. I'm going to click back up here, and we're going to duplicate that. The third one, I'm going to do the same process I did before. I'm going to click up here, drag over the entire box, go to the top and squash it another little bit like this. Okay. The next step will be to go back up. So I've made it go from full size, squashing down, squashing really down. Now it needs to cycle around. So what we need is another duplicate of number 2. So I'm going to duplicate 2. And I'm going to pull it to the far side of the really squashed one. So if we watch here on screen, when I click the first one, it's big, it's getting smaller, it's at its smallest, it's getting bigger again, and it's back up again. Okay, so the cycle is complete. So you have to remember that when it cycles through costumes, you need to make it look like a full rotation of movement. So from big to smaller to smallest, getting bigger again, back up to where it started. Okay, so I guess you can kind of see that the process is going to be fairly similar for the other ones. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. We have the E. I'm going to duplicate the E. I'm going to drag a box across here, and I'm going to make it larger. I'm going to duplicate that again. I'm going to make this a bit smaller, so I'm getting a bit short on space. Drag the box again. I'm going to make this larger again. And then we're basically going to have to duplicate the second one so that it can go back to being smaller again. Okay, so we have the small one getting bigger. That's the same size. I want to drag that to the far side of the small one. So it's normal, getting bigger, at its biggest, getting smaller, back around. So we've changed the sizes of the E through 4 different costumes. Let's just quickly do the or. Now for the or, I might do maybe expanding out on its sides. So first thing again, duplicate, and then we need to change the costume here. So again, I'm going to click and drag the box across. Then we're going to expand out this way. I'm going to duplicate that. This one, do the same thing. Duplicate, or sorry, not duplicate, expand another little bit. And then we have to duplicate the second one. So we have normal size, expanding, that's the same size, that needs to be down underneath there, so that we have normal size, expanding, at its biggest, getting smaller, back to normal again. Okay, so we have the costumes that we need. Right, so the next part, let's get back to the G, because we started with the G. Let's put some code in. So, in order to get this, we need to go to our events. When the green flag clicked, let's make that bigger. Okay, so it's nice and big on screen. Then we need a forever loop, which is in our controls, because it's going to forever do this. It's going to constantly do this loop over and over. I need a wait block. I need a wait block here, so it's there, and it's not 1 second, that's too long. 0.1 seconds. I need a looks block, which is next costume, which is over here. Excuse me, a next costume, and I'm going to add in a rotation as well. I'm going to add in a rotation so it'll constantly keep spinning. Okay, and I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to change it to 20 degrees. 20 degrees turning. Okay, so if I click on that piece of code on its own, you can see we've animated the letter G. Okay, now, so let's stop that for a second. Right, so now that we've got that bit done, all we need to do now is grab this code and put it into our other sprites. So I'm going to drag this code and drag it down to the E, and we should see when I drag it over there, you get that little wiggle, 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 and let go. So we've dragged the code into the E, and I'm going to do the same thing, drag the code down to the OR, and we get wiggle, wiggle, and I'll let it go. And that's all you need to do there. That's a good tip, guys, for if you have the same code in various sprites. You don't have to reprogram it every time. It'll just be, you can program it once and then drag it into your other sprite. So if we go into the E, there's the code there. If I go into the OR, there's the code there. So we've managed to duplicate our code. Now, let's just give a quick test since we've got a whole section done. If I click on the green flag, we get all our letters spinning and going through the animation steps. Okay, so let's make this look a little better. Let's add in a backdrop. I'm going to go into the backdrop library, and I'm going to select the concert. Okay, I'm going to select the concert, and I'm going to add something to the backdrop, because if we actually click on backdrops here, you'll see that there's the original blank one that we get. I'm going to get rid of that. We've got the original concert that we selected, and I'm going to duplicate that, and on the second one I'm going to add in some text. So here, the letter T here is the text button. You want to select that, and then select anywhere you want on the screen, click down here, and I'm going to type in is awesome, AWSOME, is awesome. And then you click onto anywhere on the screen, you get this blue box with those balls there. You can like expand the size, so you click and drag, and you can make it larger. Okay, so you can see there on the bottom. You can also drag it to a different position if you prefer, so I'll maybe drag it, say, here. And then you can also, with these arrows, you can change its angle. Okay, so yeah, I kind of like that. You can see over here on the stage, that's the way it'll come up. So I'm quite happy with that. Let's click back onto our first one. There's our second one. Okay, so we need some code. Okay, so back into the code tab. All right, and we're gonna start off with the first one is actually let me see, what am I looking at here? We need to go through the different backdrops. That's what we're looking to do. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. I'm just looking at some of my own code here off screen. So anyway, event. You need to go to event and you need to grab your when the green flag clicked block. I'm going to make this a little larger for you guys. You need to go through your looks. So let's look at costumes. It's going to start. You want it to be when the green flag is clicked, it goes to the first backdrop. So that's this one here. Switch to backdrop, concert, and wait. Okay, so it's going to go on to that one first. Then I want you to pull out a forever loop, because this is the part where the change is going to come in. Now, first thing is a wait. So I want it to wait a period of time before it starts this loop. And I'm going to let it wait 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, I want it to switch the costume. Let me see, switch the costume. And it's not this one. Let me just make that a little bit smaller. Click on the little triangle there and change it to concert 2. Okay, the concert 2 is the one where it says is awesome. Okay, and let's just move that up a bit. Next thing in there is going to be a sound, because I want it so that when those words pop up on screen, it's going to play a sound. And I was thinking something like ta-da. You get me? So that sound is in. Let's pick sounds first. We can put the block in, and then we can find the actual sound. All right, very good. And through the magic of video editing, ta-da is actually a sound in there. Right. Well, let me just show you, because this is clearly like the third or fourth edit that I've made. That's how that sound is in there. You won't have that straight away. So to find your sound, you'll have to click on your sound tab. You'll have to click into your library here, and you'll have to scroll down till you find down in TLNOPQRST. Where is ta-da? I've gone past it. There it is there. Select that and drag it out. I've already got it. Nothing to worry about. Then you'll go into your code, and you'll have to make sure that in the block here you select this and you pick the right sound. Okay, so let's just leave that as it is. That's correct. Okay, so it's going to flash that up. It's going to flash up the sound it's going to flash up the text, because it's changing costume, and it's going to play the sound, and I want that to stay on screen for just a couple of seconds. So go into our controls and pull out a wait block, and we'll set that to 2 seconds, and then it will get it to revert back to the original costume, or backdrop costume. The original, well, it is a costume. So it'll switch back to concert 1, and that's literally all you need for this one. So if we click on that, here we go. I'm gonna click on that code. It's gonna take 5 seconds. Okay, it can be a long. There we go, and the text pops up, and I'm assuming you guys can hear that sound. I can't hear it. So we'll take it that worked, and then we can press that and we'll turn that off. Okay. So next part we need to do is I want to add a background music so that there's constantly some music playing. That'll be another little block of code. So let's grab when the green flag is clicked. Let's pull out a forever loop. And let's go into our sounds, and we'll pull out a sound until done block. And again, through the magic of editing, I've already got this sound in here. So what you'll have to do again to find Dance Magic is click on your sound tab and go through your library, find the right sound you want. You can pick a different one if you prefer, and then make sure you pick it in your code. Okay, that's important that it has to be in your code. Okay, so we have a block of code in G, E, and R. We've got 2 costumes in our stage. We've got 2 pieces of code rather, in our backdrop, so that we can activate those things. Let's have a look at how it's running. Okay, so that didn't go too badly, but I want to add one more thing in there. I'm going to add in a bit more action on screen. So what I was thinking was, how about we get a rocket sprite to shoot across the screen every now and again, every say 5 seconds or so. Get a rocket to appear out of nowhere, shoot across the screen, bit of sound effect, because there's, you can add many different effects, but I just wanted to make this a bit more active, so there's a few more things in there. So let's get into the sprite library, and let's try to find our rocket. Okay, so that'll be scrolling down just a bit down here. There we go, there's our rocket ship. I love these new sprites in Scratch 3. This is brilliant. Extra costumes that they have, which makes the animation really cool. So let's click on that. Now he's pointing up, as rockets generally would do, and I want him to go horizontal across the screen. Up would be vertical. So first thing we need to do is we're going to click on here. I'm going to delete that 90 and I'm going to change it to 180. Okay, and return. And now he's sideways. Okay. Then we're going to click on him and I'm going to drag him. Now, do you remember when I told you in the first couple of videos that when you drag a sprite to a certain position, the location comes up in here? It tells you the coordinates of the sprite. Well, it also does it in the motion blocks as well. So here we have a go to XY block, and you'll notice that when I move the sprite to a different location, the coordinates change in the block. So what I want to have happen is, excuse me guys. So what I want to have happen is, well, let's start off the code actually. So I'll pull out green flag clicked. So when I start originally I wanted to hide. So that'll be in my looks, hide. And I want it to go to a particular position, okay? And that's what we're going to actually set now. So what position do I want it to start in? So I'll say about here. I'm going to push it till it's like out of the shot. You know, it's way out of the screen there. As far out as I can get it. Okay, that'll about do. Now that coordinates is actually in here. So all I'd have to do is drag that out and drop it in there. I'm also going to pull out a point direction and change that to 180. Okay, because otherwise it might just flip the sprite around on us and then it won't have the right effect. Okay, so the next thing after it does that, I wanted then to have a forever loop, because I'm going to make it fly across the screen. So forever, we're going to have a wait block. Now I don't want it to activate for a while, so I don't want it to activate as soon as I click the green flag, because what I have is when I click the green flag, I've got the letters bopping about the place, and then every, what was it 5 seconds, I have this is awesome popping up on screen. So I want it to be out of sync with other things, so I'm going to say 10 seconds. 10 seconds, so this won't actually start for 10 seconds. Okay, so it's going to wait 10 seconds and then we're going to show. Okay, so we need to make it visible, so that's going to be the show block. I'm going to make it show. Then what are we going to do? We're going to broadcast a sound. Now this will become clear in a second. Okay, go with me here on this, because I'll come back to what this is all about in a second. I'm going to change the message in there. I'm going to click call it new message, and we're going to call it space sound. SPACEPSOUND, space sound. Okay. Now as I said, just bear with me for a moment. I'll explain this one in a minute. Okay, so we're going to broadcast this sound, and then we're going to program it to move. Okay, we're going to program the sprite to fly across the screen. Now in order to do that, we're going to use a glide to block, right? Well, where do we want it to glide to? Well, again, let's get the coordinates put in here by literally just dragging the sprite across to where we want it to glide to. Okay, I want it to glide out of shot all the way over there. Okay, that's a good position. So I'm going to pull that one out, glide to, and I stick that in there. And the only one thing I'm going to change is the Y is 50, and I'm here, I have it on 69. So I'm going to change that to 50 so that there's no change in the Y axis. So it goes straight across the screen. Okay, that's the only number I'm going to change. Okay, now we have our motion. What do we need now? We need it, it's gotten to the far side of the screen. We now need it to hide. Okay, so back to the looks, we get it to hide. And when it's hidden, we then want it to go back to where it started from. And it started from this position here. So this is a simple way of doing this. I'm going to literally duplicate that block with the numbers intact. I'm going to put that one back together. Okay. And I'm going to drag this down. Let me just make this a bit smaller. It's getting complicated here now. And I'm going to drop that in there. That didn't drop in. Let me try that again. There we go. Okay, so it's going to hide and then it's going to go back to the position it started in. Okay? Right, we're not quite done yet. I'm going to add in something else as well. So, another thing that I want to do, if you look at this sprite in costumes, it actually has lots of costumes, so it can actually gives the rotation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in an event of when the green flag clicked. Yeah, let's put in a forever loop. There we go, and let's put in a wait block, and we'll put in 0.1 seconds, and next costume. Okay, looks next costume. So this will basically make the rocket ship spin on its own axis as it goes across the screen. Right? Now, here's where the broadcast comes in. So we did this broadcast space sound. If I actually went into the sounds and I used the block of play a sound until done, what will happen is it'll play the sound until done, and then it'll start moving. And that won't give us the effect we want, because what we want to do is we want the rocket to be moving and playing the sound at the same time. So a broadcast fixes this, because broadcast literally only takes, say, 1/10 of a second to transmit, and then that piece of code is done, and this can continue on to the next block, which allows the movement. What it does is it's like a relay race. It hands that action over to another piece of code. So what we need is we go into our events and we pick out when I receive space sound, back to sounds, play sound. Oh, these don't always grab in this thing. That's one thing I noticed. Play sound, space ripple. No, it's not the one we want. We're going to have to go into our sound library, and we're going to have to look for our space sounds, space flyby. That's what I want. Let's go into our code again. We want space flyby. Okay. Let's see now if we get everything working. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go big screen, and let's see how this works. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, we got our letters spinning around. Awesome. Where's our rocket? Oh, there's our rocket. That's a bit fast. Let me see. Give it a few seconds. See if we get our rocket. There's our rocket. Okay, there we go. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Please remember to click like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.